Hey everyone, just coming at you again today talking about real estate and how to look at it from a financial perspective. So those of you that have followed the channel know that my background is financial planning and real estate investing prior to actually becoming an agent here in Billings, Montana. So the question I get a lot of times from different people is, how do I determine the value of a piece of real estate and its financial growth potential? So let's take a look real quick. I think you'll be surprised at really the rate of return that you can get on a piece of real estate in comparison. All right, so when we're looking at real estate, the uniqueness of real estate is that it's not like other investments where you have just one rate of return attached to it. In the case of real estate, you actually have 4 different ways you're making money on your real estate. So the first one is the appreciation on the property. As it goes up in value on an annual basis, you've got a return here. You have mortgage reduction. You have depreciation. I always get this spelled wrong. We're just going to hope that that's right. And you have the ability to enjoy cash flow on your property as well. So let's talk about appreciation first. Appreciation rate is going to be a little bit different from state to state, and from city to city in reality. If you're in the Seattle area where I'm originally from, you can see huge 10, 15, 20% rates of return. The average in Billings, Montana over the last 30 years has been 3%. In my case, on my own personal rental property, this last 2 years, I've averaged 6.35% rate of return. So we're going to use an example of a $100,000 piece of property just because the math's easy on 100 grand, right? And we're going to say that you put $10,000 down as a down payment, and we're going to look at how that would play out in the real world. So you're out of pocket $10,000 on your $100,000 piece of real estate, and let's say you didn't make 6%. Let's say you made, just for easy math, let's say you made 5%. So 5% would be what the appreciation is on the 100,000, not on the 10, which is your actual investment in the property. So 5% of $100,000 would be $5,000 that your property went up in value over the course of a year. 5,000 divided by 10,000 would be 50% return on your investment, right? So pretty amazing scenario when you look at the value. Now, is this cash that you're going to run down to the grocery store and spend money on? No. This is equity in your property. But it's a real $5,000. Now, over here you're going to have mortgage reduction. So you have somebody living in your property paying the rent. They're going to pay for your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, PITI. You're not paying that. Your property is going to pay for itself. And so let's say that on a monthly basis, you're applying, let's say, $200 a month towards your towards your principal on this property, just for sake of example. So that would be $2,400 a year. Let's call that $2,000 a year and be conservative. 2,000 divided into your 10,000, that would be a 20% rate of return on your mortgage reduction piece of the puzzle, right? And again, what are we doing? We're building equity in your property. The property went up in value. The mortgage principal balance went down in value and increased that margin between the two. Now, depreciation. This is a little bit more difficult to explain, but basically you're going to, on an annual basis, rental real estate in general is going to always have paper losses. And so nationally, the average for a piece of real estate is that you're going to enjoy $6,000 in losses on a piece of real estate, even though it's paying cash flow. And let's say you're making or you're paying 30% taxes. 30% of $6,000 would be a $2,000 in tax benefit. You take that $2,000, divide it into $10,000. Now you've got a 20% return on the depreciation piece of the puzzle. Now, let's jump over to cash flow. Let's say that your property is cash flowing at the end of the month after it pays all of its expenses, which would be principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and all of its expenses, so maintenance and vacancy. After all of those expenses, at the end of the month, you've got $100 left over. That would be $1,200 a year on the property. Let's round that down to an even $1,000 that you actually made in cash flow. $1,000 divided into $10,000. That's another 10% on your original $10,000 investment. So let's add this all up. That's 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100% rate of return on a piece of real estate in the first year. And this is going to happen, generally speaking, it's going to be up and down. There's no guarantees that these are the numbers on every piece of property in every single year. But this is generally how investment real estate works. Now, let's say people look at me and go, there's no way I'm going to make 100% on my money in a year. These are all conservative numbers. I haven't done anything on this board that's not average. You know, obviously, you may not be buying a $100,000 piece of property. You may be buying a $200,000 piece of property. My last rental was a little under $200,000, but all of these numbers just adjust based on that. But let's say I'm wrong. Let's say that it's half of that, and it's 50%. Are you okay with that? Or let's cut it in half again and say, okay, well, it's really only 25%. Tell me where you're getting that kind of a return in something that's a hard asset that's going to be worth something 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as long as you take care of it. So this is why real estate is so powerful. I was a financial planner for 15 years. My wealthiest clients, I remember when I was 34 years old and I sat across the table from the first guy that I ever met with that was worth millions and millions of dollars, and we looked at his portfolio and I looked at his net worth. His net worth was $5 million, and I'll never forget the question I asked him. Out of the $5 million in net worth, he had $100,000 in the stock market. And I asked him, I said, why do you only have $100,000 in the stock market? And his response was, because I have a friend who's a stockbroker, so I threw him $100 grand. And I had a hard time understanding that for a moment. I'm like, so you're not really investing in the stock market, you just threw that in there for your buddy? He said, yep. Why would I go gamble with my money? I own businesses and real estate. Two things that I have some semblance of control over, and two things that spit out cash over time so that I've got mailbox money. So that's how this works. This is something I just wanted to share with you guys. One of the number one questions that people that are trying to figure out how to take advantage of real estate are looking at. Billings, Montana is on the grow. The next 2 to 5 years in this particular marketplace in America is going to be crazy. In my opinion, these numbers are probably a little low, but you know, I don't have a crystal ball. If you have questions about this kind of thing and you're looking for somebody that can answer some questions, please feel free to give us a call. 406-702-3949. Remember, the Johnson Property Group, where we bring real estate to real life.